All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Cancel for Maintenance podcast. If this is your first time joining us, we are a show that takes a behind-the-scenes look into the gritty, non-glamorous life of aviation maintenance. We share some laughs, impart some wisdom, all in hopes of giving you that split seconds relief in your day that can hopefully prevent a mishap. I am your co-host 6.
I'm MVP.
And our third host, Shoreline, is here in the studio with us, silently in the back, monitoring our audio, making sure our faces stay fit for radio. So we've put out a post on our social media outlets like Facebook and Instagram, asking everyone out there, what are your top 5 things every aircraft mechanic should know? And what's amazing about it is many of the answers had similar, if not identical items. And some of them we never knew, or we didn't know it was really that prominent. And so for this episode, we'll share some of those common answers, some of those unique ones, and then gives our feedback to most of them, like kind of like our thoughts and feelings on it. So with that said, let's probably start with the one that blew our minds probably more so than others. And that is being able to know where to find your FTN number, Fox Tango November. So FTN stands for FAA tracking number, and this is more or less like a record, a number of record, where the FAA can track your training and testing and whatnot. And this applies to pretty much everybody. If you're going for some type of an airman cert or aircraft maintenance cert, it's gonna run. You're gonna get assigned an FTN. Now, for this came about 2020-ish is when they really started to implement this system. And there's a different website which associates to this FTN. It's called IACRA. We'll put a link in the show notes so you guys can figure out what that is. So, but what this basically means is if you, from January of 2020 onwards, if you're going to take an exam or take a practical test for whatever type of airman cert through the FAA, you would register to this IACRA website for the exams, and then you'll get assigned an FTN or a tracking number. Now, the interesting part, which kind of blew our minds, was even if you did not use this IACRA system, or if you got your AMP certificate or airman cert prior to January of 2020, you still technically have an FTN. And it was like, huh, really? And we actually did this ourselves prior to the show. Like, I wonder what our FTN is. And
sure enough, there it was.
And there it was. Now, the process might seem a little confusing. And it's mostly just because, like, when you initially start doing the application, it's almost like you're starting it brand new, even though you already done it. And as MVP and I can attest, like, once you've kind of go past that stage and go to the next one, it asks right off the bat, like, hey, what's your certificate number? Be it airframes, power plants, pilot, whatever. And you yourself, if you've never used this site, you do actually, in fact, have an FTN. So that was a big mind blow for us. I'm like, I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, so I think, like, from this point forward, if you go and get any additional certifications or whatever your IA, for example, I think you will have to get or have to use your FTN when you go and do your test.
Right. Or likewise, say if you're an aircraft mechanic right now and you want to get your private pilot's license or something like that, it's same process. And you would jam in whatever certificates you have issued to you already. And it says it right off the bat in that section that if you don't have one, then just skip over to the next step. So for those of us who do have it or do have certificates issued to us by the FAA, just jam it into that one section and then drive on. And you do, in fact, have an FTN. It exists. If you have any type of FAA certificate, you have an FTN, regardless if you've used that website or not for your testing. So, fun fact, blew our minds. Did not know that. Next one is don't be afraid to ask questions. The only thing that you can accomplish by staying silent is staying ignorant. 100% true. I think for us, we've said it through many episodes. Like, if you don't know anything, if you don't know what's up, ask somebody. Like, the only dumb question is the one not asked. So
yeah, know this: you're going to get a sarcastic answer. It's just the nature of who we are as an industry and as a specialty. But you'll get a truthful answer. It'll just be laced in sarcasm.
yes, you definitely take that with a grain of salt. Like, that's just how we are, as MVP said. Like, and it really just depends on the tone sometimes, right? Like the tone, the time of day, like how spent you are. Just know it's probably gonna happen. But again, like we said, like the only dumb question is the one not asked. And for any answer for an unasked question is always gonna be no. So better to sound dumb than to be dumb and do dumb things, if that makes any sort of sense. uh, let's see. This one's actually a common one that we've gotten across the board is, at the bare minimum, know where and how to locate information, i.e., use the manuals, know where to find the FAR, manufacturing documentation, and so forth.
Well, that's actually something I've been dealing with in my my current position at work. Talking about addressing some culture issues, and one of those things addressing is asking the entirety of the workforce up and down the chain, hey, do you know where to find the process procedures you're working to? The released engineering? Do you know where to get that? No, I just do what my lead tells me.
Ooh.
That's not the best answer. You should be able to know. You should really know to what standards you're working to and to what processes you're supposed to be following. Yes, the maintenance manual, but even beyond the maintenance manual, if you're processing parts or whatever else you got to do within your hangar, I mean, there's probably a flow of operations to that and forms to fill out and whatever else. So you should really know and know where to go. And I'm not telling you to memorize. That's why in this industry, everything is written down, and that's why everybody's so structured around a written process, because if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So you should, I'm not asking you to memorize everything, but you should have a good general understanding of what it is you're supposed to be doing. And again, if you can't memorize it, not asking you to, but you should know where to go to reference it.
Absolutely, yes. And again, like a lot of regulations and procedures and whatnot, they change depending on like the frequency of that process or system or whatnot. So sometimes, like, whatever system or process you're working to, it may seem relevant to the last time you took a look at it, but that can might have got kicked down the road how many revisions later, and the stuff that you are holding true is probably obsolete or illegal. So it's
right. Well, and so there needs to be, back to the processes, right? Talking about obsolete data. It's so funny because I was just reading on this today with the AS 9100, and you have to, as part of your quality management plan, you have to have or quality management system, you have to have a way of how to control obsolete data.
yes.
Right? Yeah, you don't just throw it away and you delete it. And delete it, you archive it in the historical records, but that has to be controlled by a certain group, so nobody can just go in there. It's just kept for historical records, and then the most current revision is what everybody has access to. And again, right, revisions happen all the time with these processes, but I can tell you, I don't think they're very well disseminated out to the masses. Usually it's one of those, or some go be reading through and go, hey, did you guys know that this changed? Or did you know we don't have to do this anymore? Or, hey, guys, we weren't doing this before and now we have to. And then it's like word of mouth. But really need to come up with a better notification system. Say, hey, everybody, this is what has changed. Now, I will say, in my current area of operation, there's like an all hands email that comes out and it's from the what we call the librarians, and basically we say, they say, hey, this this procedure's been updated to the most current revision. You can locate it here, but that takes time and effort on the individuals, right? So they're notifying you, so we can say you didn't know, but you have to take the time to go in and read those changes. And at the front of the procedure, you're like, what changed? Well, there's a change record typically at the front of all these processes, so you can quick references there to see what was added or deleted in this most current revision, and then go through and read those sections, those paragraphs, and just say, hey, does any of this affect me? And then once you learn that, tell your coworkers.
Yes.
Just get the word out there, and really, as maintenance leaders, we should be telling our people on the floor, right from the director of maintenance on down, say, hey, everybody, this updated. Do a short briefing on it, right? Talk about it at your morning maintenance meeting. Hey guys, this procedure dropped yesterday, the newest revision. Here's what changed. So when you go and do these jobs, make sure you're doing this now and filling out this form.
Yes, exactly.
Just things like that. It's just the open lines of communication.
Right. Big ones. And I'm going to point out one that one of our patrons actually put out on top of the knowing how, where, and when to use your tech data. He mentions FAR 43.9, which is, content form, disposition of maintenance, pretty much like how to maintain records and how to do maintenance entries. This is a big deal because we've argued this through and through as to what kind of information needs to be on a maintenance log, or what kind of information needs to be present, like bare minimum stuff, right? And some organizations vary from one to the next. Like some can just be like remove panel, install panel. If that's as long as you're meeting the bare minimums of your organization or your outfit, by all means. But there are regulations that talk about what exactly needs to be in a logbook at the bare minimum. And then likewise, like what sort of operations are you allowed to run once the documentation has been signed off and air quotes sealed. So again, with the tech data stuff, we can't stress this enough. Like, know how, when, and where to utilize these data, because especially with aviation, with the amount of revisions we go through, some more than others, we admit. I'll admit some are way more than others, but you don't want to be the one caught with your pants on your ankles when the changes happen and you're using old, obsolete information, and surprise, a freaking audit comes through and there goes your license.
And the excuse of I don't know doesn't fly.
Yes.
And you might go, I didn't know this new information, but these manuals changed. And whoever's doing your audit's going to go, okay, you're not exempt from this, but now we're going to dig a little bit further. Hey, why isn't there a notification system? Who's in charge of this? And then, so not only are you going down, but there's probably going to be a few other entities that go down as well.
Oh, yes. And we kind of mentioned this a little bit with the owner produced parts. This is probably like one of the bigger culprits in the matter, where like they don't care that the part is kind of sort of funky. If you're the one working on it, if you're the one installing it, if you're the one signing it off, you're technically the one who gives it the flight authority to do what it does, even though it's kind of like, it's kind of shady. But if you sign that off for whatever means, it's your neck on the line, not whoever gave it to you. So again, with the whole tech data thing, this is actually interesting. This next comment is pretty interesting because it kind of falls in line with MEP's heart and soul here. It's, for the love of God, work on your handwriting.
Oh man, I tell you, and I got to tell you, I have Spawn, who have he's got, one of my Spawn has deplorable handwriting, and every time I help him with his homework, I make it a point to say it. And it's to the point now where I'll sit down and be like, can you help me with this? And I'll look at it and go, yes, my handwriting's terrible. You don't have to say anything. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And so we'll go through all the homework. And at the end, I'm like, all right, here, you understand now? Yeah, I understand. And your handwriting sucks. And then I get up and walk away.
Yeah, it's another one I would say along with the handwriting.
It's a dying it's a dying art.
Yes.
I think I saw something where, in the state which we reside, they just introduced cursive handwriting back into the curriculum.
Right.
But handwriting in general in this digital age, and look, how many of us, even in aviation anymore, really write anything down with our electronic logbooks and forms and everything else? Everything's digitized.
Right.
So handwriting is typically only when you're out there and you're underneath the jet and you're writing down a part number so you can on your notepad so you can walk back inside and order it.
Right.
But that's about the extent of it. So handwriting doesn't have to be super neat. But I'm telling you, there's still some forms that are floating around out there with these different operators, and you still have to handwrite the work you're doing. So for the love of God, please just take your time with it.
Yes.
Because if I can't read it, I don't know what you did. And let's say there was an incident with the aircraft, and you worked on it in Van Nuys, and I'm picking it up in Teterboro, New Jersey, and I'm trying to figure out this thing broke. Well, let me go back and see. Well, I can make out the word aileron, and aileron broke, but I can't tell what the hell else you did. So it just turns into this whole investigative pile. But it also, to me, and this is just me being a little bit judgy and condescending, but to me, your handwriting is a reflection of how you perform your work, right? And don't get me wrong, I've worked with some outstanding mechanics who didn't have the best of handwriting, right? But they were masters of the trade. But I worked with them, so I knew their skill set. But again, if I'm working in Teterboro, New Jersey, and there's somebody working in Van Nuys, California, and I've never met the person in my life, but we work on the same jets because this one operator floats back and forth between, and I see that person's name all the time, but it's just deplorable handwriting. I just associate them with crap work, and I'm here to tell you, the operator sees it that way too. The maintenance control, whenever you're submitting forms for review and all that to get your jet released for flight, you're being judged by maintenance control too. And I'm telling you, even though if you're a good mechanic, they see that terrible handwriting. Over time, they're going to try to figure out if there's somebody else out there that can do the job over you. Now, I know that's talking almost strictly to the corporate jet realm, but it happens. It happens. Like, don't call that group. They're going to have so and so out there, and we've never met them, but MVP's handwriting is just atrocious, so we don't want to hire him again. Let's find somebody else.
Right. I would also say with the handwriting piece is, at the very least, at least clean your hands before you write.
Yeah.
I've seen many forms where it just looks like someone just like took a baby and smeared their dirty diaper all over it. Like, is it an A? Is it a 0? Is it grease poop? I don't know. What is this, right? It just looks like a hot mess. Like, this belongs in a toilet. That's how some of the forms I've seen look. And so on top of
who's writing with an old fountain pen and it exploded?
Yeah.
Who's still writing with a fountain pen?
Right. It's at the very least, man. Like, if your handwriting blows, just take your time and please just like clean your hands, or like find somebody who is really good at writing or is really fast at writing and just let them do it. Maybe one of the senior guys who's like, he's really knowledgeable. He or she's really knowledgeable at the forums when they're, a little bit, things don't bend and twist as they do anymore. So like, hey man, like, for the safety of you, maybe we should just let you do the forums, stuff like that. Not saying put them out of a job, but they look like they're hurting, then don't force them to do like above and beyond stuff,
Yeah, I know in some of my old deploying days, we had actually a position there where that person's sole job, and they were one of the mechanics, and they would help work on aircraft from time to time, but their primary purpose was strictly forms. And that's all they did. Anything from parts processing and writing forms and taking parts tags and filling out things or whatever else. The official title for that position was called the scribe, and the unofficial was called the mecretary.
I forever love that term, man.
Yeah, but it was a crucial part of the job because while everybody else is hands on turning wrenches, this person was grinding out the paperwork. So by the time maintenance was done, forms were done, and we were released and ready to rock and roll.
Yes,
And it wasn't divided attention.
Right. This next one here, it kind of runs in line with know when and how to use the tech data. It's don't let people pressure you into signing off a job. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's other ones that sound similar to this. Like, if it sounds shady, don't do it. If the company is like telling you to sign something off for the sake of schedule, don't do it. It's more or less the same thing. Like if you're being pressured into signing something off and you're not the one who did the job, or you're being told to sign something off when you know it's not ready, that's a clear sign that no, absolutely not. And how you would back this up is by the tech data, which is why I said it's kind of related. Because if the tech data says it's wrong and here's person X trying to say something different, unless that person wrote that manual, I'm pretty sure that's not like the way to go. And we've talked about this subject on many different episodes in the past where people think only dollars and schedules and dollars, right? High revenue flights, high value mission, etc., etc. Now, depending on your situation, and what I mean by depending, it's like it's got to be real dire stuff. Like this has to fly or people will die, right? Kind of thing. In that situation, got it, right? But for 99% of the stuff, if it sounds shady, looks shady, or smells shady, it's probably shady, And if this is something where you don't feel comfortable signing off on, hey, it's your license that's on the line. Like the worst someone can do is like administrative stuff, right, against you. And that's something you don't want on your head. Should something do happen or something do go wrong, is for your name to be blasted on that for the last one to certify that aircraft or that asset, whatever the case may be. So yeah, most definitely don't give in to that kind of pressure, and you'll most likely get turned into the bad guy. Like, oh, he or she is just being that individual who just doesn't want to be a team player or some crazy iteration of that, right? They'll try to play on your morals, saying that you're the one that's not playing the game or whatever the case may be, and they'll resort to some tactics like that. So, but if you know the information, if you know the regulations, if you know the rules, and you're 100% sticking to it, like no like open to interpretation kind of thing, then you're good to go, and that'd be a sound hill to plant your feet on. That's at least my opinion on it.
So when it comes to signing off forms and somebody trying to get you to sign off some shady work, just stand your ground with them. Don't give in, because 9 times out of 10, it is shady and they know it, which is why they're getting you to do it so they can be exempt from it, any repercussions. But just tell them like, no, if it's so important and has to get signed off now, sign it off. Oh, well, I'm going to be the second signature or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, then good. Go find somebody else to be the first. Yeah. And they either will, or you'll say, no, you got to fix all these things before I'll sign it. And so they'll either find another stool pigeon, or they'll just do it the right way.
Yeah, no kidding. Again, with the whole pressure thing, like as MVP stated, just gonna say like one last time, like if there's any hill to die on, it's gonna be that. And just as long as you're yourself, you're in the right, you're following the rules, you're following the regulations on all the policies, and there's not like some overriding waiver authority that this person's trying to pitch to you. Again, make sure it's in writing. And if that doesn't exist, it doesn't get signed off. It's your name, not theirs, on that plane. So this next one, Um, this is it says, "Do it because you love it, not because you think you want to get rich." I will wholeheartedly agree because aviation in general, no matter what specialty, it's very trying. It's very, very trying, and there's a lot of misconception we've heard from some people who want to get into it. Like it seems like a fun ride. It's a way to get rich and la da. In some cases, depending on what outfit
Who said this? Who said you're going to get rich? Who told you that?
Right. I mean, maybe like relative to what you're making now, it might look like you're getting rich, but I'll tell you, like you're making big bucks because you're working big time hours. You know? Even,
yeah.
Like I've heard some guys, man, like who walk away with like 115 to upwards of 180K on a year, which is fantastic. Don't get me wrong. But, you know, like you hear some of their overtime hours that they racked up throughout that year, like upwards of 500 to 800 hours. I don't even know that's even possible, but some OT
Yeah,
hours.
I mean, they're living on the road, right? We've had conversations about that. They were living on the road or out of country. And, you know, and there was a time where that was me. Wasn't making that kind of money, but I was definitely gone a lot. So, you know, aviation's, you know, it's kind of one of the reasons I got into it is because I really like aviation. And I wanted to fly, but flying wasn't really an option for me. So I got into the maintenance side of it. And then I wanted to travel. And at least when I got into it, the opportunities to travel were just very abundant. And so I took advantage of that for all it was worth until I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. And now I still travel. I'm actually sitting in a hotel room right now.
Hey.
But I don't go away for as long as I used to, and definitely not the pace that I was either. You know, it's like once or twice a year now for a week or two at a time versus being gone 9 months out of the year. You know,
Right. And again, like this kind of hustle, like you gotta have an affinity for it. You gotta love what you do. Like if you love everything about airplanes, if you love everything about aviation, you love the community you're with, this is the place for you. Because if it's not in that fashion, it's gonna wear you thin real fast. Real fast. There's a bunch of people we've known that, you know, they come in, they're all starry eyed. They think it's like a grand adventure, and then they're not absorbing the idea of how much you're gonna work, and they get slammed with it, and then they're just like turned off completely. They switch off. They go do something completely different. Which kudos to them, man. If you know, like we don't want to force you into making this a habit where you have to just kind of swallow it, you know, like swallow the suffering and just kind of power through it without liking your job, because that's just going to lead to more negativity, more repercussions, more near misses in the long run.
Yeah, and I think most of us who are in this, we do it because we like working with tight tolerances, right?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have such a wide band, you know, of point one to point, you know, or to 2.0. We're like at a 0.1 to a 0.3, you know, range for tolerances, and then also a kind of a hectic schedule. We're always under the gun to get work done, but to be within those tight tolerances, right? And there's just a whole other level to the type of work we do over, you know, auto mechanics or maritime or whatever. And I'm not saying they don't have tolerances to work into, but the risk of what we do is exponentially higher. A boat breaks down, all right, it just becomes a rowboat. You know, it's a gross dramatization of that, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
You're just floating at that point, unless you got a breach in the hull. But and for a car, you pull over.
Right.
But for a plane, it's a whole different game.
Yep.
Yeah, you can dead stick them in and you can emergency land and all that stuff, but the again, the risk of that and the success rates are those windows are just as tight as the tolerances to which we work in.
Absolutely. This next one kind of goes in line with the last comment. It goes, own up to your mistakes. Tell on yourself. Everyone messes up, but the people that hide it can't be trusted. This is pure facts. We all make mistakes.
100%.
We all make mistakes. It's gonna happen one way or another, however big, however small. It's gonna happen. The worst thing you can do about it is hide it, because you're gonna get found out one way or another. You're gonna get found out, whether it be someone like caught you in the act, or someone kind of put two and two together, or an investigation dug you up. Whatever the case may be, it's gonna come to light. And if it doesn't happen now, it's going to get kicked down the can or kicked down the street a lot later, and it's going to be worse for you. So,
well, that's what I always tell some junior mechanics. Look, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. And to me, even in a QA realm, people come, oh, hey man, we messed up. All right, well, can you fix it? Yeah, we're fixing it right now. Then it's not that serious.
right.
Did anybody get hurt? Did the asset get hurt in the process? No. We just the drill bit slipped and we kind of gouged us, but we're within tolerances and we can blend the scratches. All right, easy enough. Then that's why those procedures exist, because it's sort of expected. No big deal. Now, versus the I gouged up this piece of sheet metal and I decided to hide it under some RTV or whatever, and then 6 months down the road, we find a stress fracture in that area, and it's a structural part. So now we got to down the aircraft, and it's going to take 2 months to draw out all the rivets and replace that, whatever that a bulkhead or some shit. Yeah. Again, just way over dramatizing the issue, but the fact of the matter is, bring it up now. Tell me now we're mistakes. Tell me now. If I find out 6 months from now, it's going to be far worse for you.
Yes,
most definitely. To the point where I'll probably just go to the DOM and say, get rid of them, because now because I can't, like Six said, I can't trust you anymore. Mm-hmm. And once I can't trust you, I don't have any use for you. There's no reason for you to be here. Yep. I can take out the garbage. Can you? I don't know if you can, if you're even capable of that. The song by Tyler Childers, it says, takes twice as long to build the bridges you burn. And the trust in the workplace, especially the aviation shop, is once it's gone, it's near next to impossible to get that back, to build that reputation back.
Absolutely. And going on trust, I love how these comments, they kind of build on each other, and they're all sequential, which is crazy. This one goes, no one knows everything. I've never trust a mechanic that says or a mechanic that never says I don't know can't be trusted. And this other, and it kind of goes on the caveat that says communication in big bold letters.
Yeah.
Communication is huge. And if you haven't kind of caught that message, just from us, like giving our feedback, communication is like the single most important thing. I remember this one saying, someone mentioned to me, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. That's mind blown.
Yeah, and I'm sure we've all worked for people who say, hey, boss, I'd like to bring this up again. Oh, we've already talked about it. Well, so it's already taken care of. Well, it's not taken. So I used to just accept that for a word, but I don't know why, it just happened to me at work last week, and I was talking to my leadership about something. I say, hey, guys, I want to bring something up to you. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're well aware. You are? And I kind of, because I got cut off in my sentence, so maybe that's what set my mind in motion with this, but kind of cut me off. Say, yeah, we're tracking. We're already aware of that. You are? Yeah, we're already making steps. What are those steps? What do we do? So I just started asking questions. I said, you haven't resolved it, or or you're not in the path to resolution if I'm not aware of it. And so, what do you mean? I said, you guys were aware of this problem, and you told nobody. So for us, the problem still exists, right? And nothing's been done. So we're doing our part to communicate. You haven't done yours,
Yes.
And oh yeah, I guess we could get a little better at communication. Yeah, remember that next time you're crying at me about something.
Right.
Oh, why didn't you tell me this? Oh, because I already took care of it. Well, you still have to tell me. Yeah. Well,
I'm just
it goes,
playing by
goes
your
both
rules.
ways. Yeah, it goes both ways.
Exactly. And it's even, and as MVP said, like, even if it's already been talked about, it's better to repeat an issue than to assume that it's already happened. Right. That's the illusion that it has taken place. That's probably like one of the single most triggering factor in any type of issue, is the fact that people assume that communication has taken place. I will caveat to saying this is like, don't interject your personal feelings into stuff that you don't know. Like if you are unsure or the facts aren't 100% there, try to keep your personal opinions out of the mix. Right, because all it does is just going to perpetuate the misinformation. It's going to communicate the wrong thing across the board, and then everyone's acting upon stuff that wasn't true to begin with. You know what I mean? That kind of goes into that.
And a way to catch that is you'll hear people say, because you'll hear somebody say, no, you're not doing this right, and you have to do this and this, that, and the other. But if you're level-headed enough and you know your procedures and you know your processes and your data because you're stayed up to date with it, and you can go, well, that's weird because the process is this. And they said, yeah, but this, that, and the other. Well, the process doesn't state that. It states this. Where are you getting your information from? And they go, and you hear them, they won't catch themselves. They'll go, well, I think, and you're like, you're interjecting your own personal thoughts on how you think this should go. And you're trying to make that as law, but it's not written down anywhere. So guess what? Well, even if their ideas are good, great. Why don't you go update the process then? Meanwhile, we're going to work to this. That's a good idea. You just need to pull the document out, send it through another revision. Yep. And again, 9 times out of 10, that's not going to happen because that's more work for that individual, and they're just not going to take the time to do it. Yep. What they want to do is interject in a conversation, and I'm talking louder than you, so I'm right. Their own personal thoughts and opinions on how things should go.
Absolutely, yes. Prime example. I was going to say the exact same thing. You took my thunder, but I'm glad we're driving. I'm glad we're driving on the same mind. Like, you'll notice this as you're in the industry. Like, once you start holding yourself to a high standard and you expect that from other people, your mind start jiving together unconsciously. It starts like following a similar rhythm, and then once you're actually in that rhythm, you're open-minded. You're being able to non-verbally communicate. That's one way to put it, right? So I love that. So a lot of the ones are all relatively the same. This last one here, we'll do this to kind of cap things off. It's one of the things that we subliminally do, but we consciously don't try to seek it out. It's build your tribe. And what this comment means is like, nothing makes life more difficult than surrounding yourself with people who have very different goals compared to you. And aviation has many walks of life, many different backgrounds, many different mindsets and goals. And there's nothing that really throws you into a corner and isolates you than to be with people who have completely different goals than you do, and they try to kind of like push that as law. You know what I mean? So surrounding yourself with ones who have like-minded aspirations for themselves, it kind of like propels you into wanting to do more of that, if that makes any sort of sense.
No, you're right. It's the power of positive thinking. And if you're around negativity all day, it just infects you.
Yes.
Just infects you. and it starts taking you down a little bit. And even though you might be aware of, no workplace is perfect, but you're aware of it, but you know how to compartmentalize and separate that emotion from your current task. But there's some people that can't, and that's all they do. And the next thing you know, and I'll say this, especially when you're around people for day in and day out for months and months on end, the same people, and it's the same churning conversation. It just starts bleeding into your brain, and just starts infecting you. And then eventually you wake, you come in one day and something's happened, and then you hear yourself complaining. You're like, man, why am I complaining about that? Yeah, it's not perfect, but it's not the end of the world either.
Right.
What are we doing? And just try to surround yourself with positive people.
Right.
I know we're a bunch of salty old grumpy assholes, but underneath the saltiness, we're all generally pretty good. So just try to pull out the good in your shop. If it is a bunch of negativity, try to combat that with your own positive outlook on things, And I'll refer back to it can only last for 12 hours.
Right. And
right.
then
find the silver lining.
Right, exactly. And then sometimes, you got to kind of outsource some of your mentorship, right? I'll say mentorship along with building your tribe, because sometimes, like the individuals that you're around, they've been salty. This is all they know, or this is kind of like they're on the acceptance stage of depression or grievance, and so sometimes you got to kind of outsource that to help pull you out of that mindset, and then in all hopes that you absorbing that positivity distributes itself and becomes contagious around those around you. So like they may not be in the black negative, but now they're more like a light shade of gray. So, they're still in their acceptance level of grievance, but they're more of a brighter side, so to say, right? And the outlook is a lot better than how they were before all of it. So, and then surrounding yourself with people who you want to be a part of, it kind of gives you that aspiration to excel and be better, right? And you actually have some people who would challenge you to do the same. Like finding that one mentor on the line who just who keeps information like a steel trap, or someone who's really good at safety wire, like can do this blindfolded upside down and backwards, stuff like that, right? Like those are the ones you kind of want to hang around with to help propel yourself as far as a professional is concerned. And some of these might even translate to your personal life. They become like professional friends become personal friends as well, right? That's the kind of people you want to surround yourself with, not just the ones who like you kind of have to suck it up and suffer through it at work, and then you leave, and then you kind of have to like just deal with this void that you've dug for yourself into your personal life. You know what I mean?
It's kind of interesting. You mentioned, making a work friend a personal friend. And I'm thinking back to, past coworkers and stuff who I'm still friends, with to this day. And some of those people who are talking about being salty individuals and disgruntled all the time and always negative. And you say, well, how did you become friends with them? And because, like Six said, they have this one particular skill set. So surround yourself with them. And I recognized this one individual was composites, and I was like, this guy could weigh out resin and hardener just by holding it, and it would be perfect every time. Because he has such experience. I mean, he had to weigh it out. He knew layups. He knew how to resin wipe and get the most penetration with the resin, the layups, and how you should start at this end and work this way depending on what the layup was. And so I started just kind of following that individual around. Hey, teach me. I'll run the table for you. I'll do the grunt work, right? I'll do some of the mixing. I'll go grab all the stuff. I'll lay out the stuff on the table. I'll make the cuts and I'll hand them up to you, and you just do the layups. And so that individual, we became friends because I cared. And here's where I'm going with that. They were salty because all the people coming into the workforce didn't give a shit. They just show up, didn't want to learn anything new, just wanted to whatever. And so this person's here they're getting frustrated. Like, yeah, I'm senior in the shop, but I'm still doing this work. But nobody is willing to try to learn anything. So then they get angry. right? Because they genuinely care about what they do. And then here along comes somebody that shows general interest, and they're like, oh my God, it's a unicorn. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that, and what that one particular instance with the scenario I just gave, that was the case. He was angry because nobody gave a shit. And he was very, very passionate about doing the best work. Like if he was signing his name to it, it had to be pristine. And if you were working with him and he was going to get second signature, your work had to be pristine. So for your work to be to his level, you better learn it from him. And that was the situation. But yeah, just I bet you'll find that everybody listening in your shops, some of the most disgruntled people are just because nobody's willing to put forth the effort to get to the level that they're at. And so because of that, it's easy to get down because you're going, why am I trying so hard? I'm trying so hard and I'm doing all this awesome stuff, but also my work's dependent upon these other people and they could care less. And it's maddening.
Yeah, most definitely. And you're absolutely right. Like I've fell into that hole myself. Like whatever, just even if like new people come, like whatever, man. Like here's your bare minimums. Here's your to dos. Just stay out of my way, right? Because you've already conditioned yourself that no one's gonna help anyway. So you might as well figure out how to do it yourself. But it's that kind of mentality that just like it creeps up on you. So surrounding yourself with tribe members, or at least being willing to break that barrier, it really in the long run it could unravel some stuff that's been buried underneath that they've just been wanting to do, but it's just been pushed so far down, you know what I mean, as MVP has mentioned. So this was actually really fun. We love hearing this kind of feedback, and this is the stuff we encourage. Please tell us more of this stuff. These are the things that we love to pass on. I mean, some of this might be common knowledge to a lot of people depending on where your outfit is, but for some individuals, like maybe they've heard it a different way, or maybe they're not being treated that way, or they're brand new, very green, don't know what to expect. This is the kind of stuff that needs to disperse and trickle down and whatnot, because it's becoming more apparent that aviation is slowly aging itself out. You know what I mean? What I mean by that is like a lot of the specialties, a lot of the masters, a lot of the guys and girls who have the knowledge, they're not being replaced by new enthusiastic people who want to learn and absorb it and take over, so to speak. Right?
And it's not because they're not talented individuals or trying to say, well, this younger generation just ain't worth a damn. I'm not trying to be, an old boomer here, but I think it's just a different dynamic now. It's a different field. Everything's electronic. A lot of the handheld, skill sets of the old masters is becoming a dying art form, right?
Yep.
Look at safety wiring. A lot of it's being replaced with safety cable. For those who don't know what safety cable is, it's a strand of braided wire that you run between two pieces of hardware, and then it gets crimped with a special calibrated. I call it a gun. That's what it looks like, but safety cable. So getting your twist, the right amount of twist per inch, and your Z pattern with no kinks and everything else. Like it's just a different ball game now.
Right.
But like, don't let those old skill sets go the way of the cobbler either.
Yep.
For those of you who don't know what a cobbler is, it's a shoe repair person. That's how that's how gone with the wind a cobbler is. That is a near dead art.
Right. And we
actually so pick it up from the old timers. Learn those things, just like handwriting, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, what do I need to have good handwriting for? Everything's digitized. Yeah, but geez, you can't let it die off either. That's pertinent. And someday when we have when the solar flares get wide enough and the Earth gets a solar blast and all of our electronics collapse,
right.
And we turn into, what's that movie with Denzel Washington where he was blind and he memorized the Bible in Braille?
Oh yeah,
Book of Eli. and the person has to handwrite it down as he's telling. I mean, that's what we're going to be left with. Again, look at me over dramatizing everything today, but for real, like come on, it's our most, not the most ancient form of communication, but it's right there with it,
Right. And there's other organizations out there who've actually making it a mission to like reinvigorate the various types of skill sets and trades. There's many out there. I can't list them all, but one of them prominently that's out there is like Tech Force. Granted, it focuses a lot on like tools, like automotive and marine and motorcycle stuff, but they're branching off into other things like collision and aviation and welding. These are all big skill sets that we kind of taken for granted. Even blacksmithing is being taken for granted because additive manufacturing and all that other stuff have kind of sort of taken control of the game. But
it's back to our society too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Faster, less time equals more money. Look, I'll use my woodworking as an example. I've been building furniture and stuff. I could go, and then I went into the store to go buy more stain. And when I was walking through, they had a metal rack there in the big box store that was 5 racks high and it was 60 inches, long, and could hold up to 10,000 pounds. And it was for $250. And that was less than what I spent on material to build the furniture I have. Now, you can say, why would you do that, MVP? Well, to me, it's a little bit of work therapy, right? It keeps the mind sharp, but it's not, I don't know how to explain it. It's satisfying work for me to do. But that's that culture, like Six just said. It's the consumer culture, right? Why be a craftsman? We don't have craftsmen anymore. Why be a craftsman when everything's just mass produced and cheaper? I think that's part of the issue too.
I agree.
Right? We don't. How many of you? No kidding, take a component out, break it apart on a bench, troubleshooting, fix it, and put it back together? Including myself, I bet you, and I'm not even part of that group either, because it's that side of our industry is going away because it's just faster and cheaper to replace a box.
Mm-hmm.
Go pull a new one off the shelf and throw it in there, test it, and get it back in the air. Right? Send that other one back to the manufacturer. It's their problem.
Right.
So we're losing those critical troubleshooting and fixing skills,
Right.
But not telling you all that to get discouraged. It's just how our industry's changing. It's how our field's changing. Mm-hmm. And these new people coming in, it's not their fault. They're a product of the industry they're stepping into. But if you do have that interest, go find the old timer and, hey, what can you show me?
Right.
And you might not use that skill every day, but there is going to be that one day it's needed, and you're going to be there, and you're going to have the ability to take care of it. Think about how many of you out there have had to tell your significant other, you had to sell them on a tool you just spent $500 on. well, I'm not going to. How are you going to use it? That's what they say. How are you going to use this? Well, not every day, but when I need it, I'll have it, and it'll be worth its while. And I did that with Kool-Aid, and then there was something happened in the house, and something broke, and there was a specialty tool we needed for. I think it was like a specialty valve pulling tool for like your shower handles.
Yep.
And so we had one in the kids' restroom that broke, and it was leaking water pretty bad. And I had the tool on hand. I bought it 5 years ago, used it for when I needed it. It's been hanging on the wall in the garage ever since, but I had it there to replace it and got it done within 20 minutes. And that was it. It was showed her at that point. Oh, okay, I get what you're saying now. Like, so now I really don't get questioned when I buy tools. Like, if you're buying it, you must have a need for it. Because I don't just go buy random willy-nilly stuff. So it's one of those. Okay, well, if you need it, you must be a purpose behind it, and it'll pay for itself.
Right. Most definitely. And again, with a lot of these skill sets that are fading, it's definitely one of those we need to preserve, or at least find some type of method where its application can be used for future needs. Because it's one of those things like you don't realize it's fundamental until it's gone. You know what I mean? So, but hey, let us know what you guys think. Like, what sort of top things that you feel aircraft mechanics need to know that we haven't covered already? What's some of the unique things that you feel that you've discovered in your career that most people don't readily know or are not keen on knowing? And then what sort of skill sets do you feel like that we need to preserve, or the ones that you feel like need to have an emphasis again, so to speak? Let us know in the comments. Let us know on our social medias, Facebook, Instagram, and so forth, our website or our email. The absolute best way to get a hold of us is through Discord via our Patreon. We have all sorts of conversations like this on the reg. This is where we learn a bunch of stuff, like for instance, FTN. And
thanks again for whoever threw that one out there. I learned something new today.
Most definitely. Definitely. Thank you for that. And again, like, this is the kind of conversations we like having. We like giving this feedback, pretty much like reaching across the timeline to preserve these type of skills. And again, like, if you're one of those individuals who are new, who want to get into a trade or want to at least enhance your trade, there's many different organizations, nonprofits, and initiatives out there that can help you get this going. And sometimes it just takes pulling the ear finding a mentor, pulling his ear, and just getting taken under their wing. On that note, hey, we thank you all again for listening, and we'll see you all on the next one. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
We would like to take this time to thank our patrons for supporting our show and allowing us to make episodes, maintain our gear, and create merch for all of our listeners. With special thanks to Erica Lamont, Chris Hawkins, Eric Shaw, Dan Schubert, Ryan Frushauer, Kyle Keir, Mike Sherwood, Caleb Stockhill, and Jennifer Brofer. Thank you all so much for your support and patronage. If you like our show, please support us on Patreon. You'll receive awesome perks like access to our private Discord, discounts and early access to our merch, first glimpse of our comics and other projects, and so much more. You can further support us and show off your prowess as an aircraft specialist by visiting our shop at cancelformaintenance.com. If you like classy or rugged watches, visit our affiliate Rockwell Time at rockwelltime.com. Use the code CX, the number 4MX to save 10% off your total order. If you have suggestions for the show or you'd like to be a guest on the show, send us a line on our contact us section at cancelformaintenance.com, and we'll do what we can to get both your ideas and yourself on the show. Please support us on social media like Facebook at Cancel for Maintenance, Instagram at CANX for Maintenance Podcast, or Twitter at CXMX Podcast. Please check out our new comic series on the Tapas app. Like, share, subscribe, and comment on our comics. Let us know what you think. Thank you all so much for your support and listenership, and we will catch you all next time.